According to the latest reports from the IRS, the wealthiest 1/10 of 1%, 300,000 men, women, and children now earn more income than do the bottom 150 million Americans. 1/10 of 1% more income than 50% of the American people, and that gap is growing wider. What is your sense about what it means to the future of this country and economic justice that we have such an unequal distribution of income and wealth?
Well, first of all, Mr. Sanders, Senator, I have not thought about that question. Don't
you think it's a question that we should think about?
I will give it some thought. I have given some thought to tax distribution and tax reform, and I would agree with you that our tax code needs to be reformed, and there are problems within our tax code that need to be rooted out. We have the top 1% of the tax code of the people paying taxes in this country pay 40% of all of the taxes. The top 5% pay 59%.
But I've just given you an example of the fact that the wealthiest 1/10 of 1% earn more income than do the bottom 50%.
They also pay taxes, don't they?
Of course they pay taxes, but not proportionate to what they earn. Let me ask you another question, a moral question. Let's forget about being in the United States Senate. Let's get down to basic morality. In your budget, you propose over $700 billion in tax breaks for the wealthiest 3/10 of 1%. $700 billion in tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires at the same time as you want to eliminate, among other programs, the Low-Income Weatherization Assistance Program, as you want to make massive cuts in the LIHEAP program, which you are very familiar with. Well, in Vermont and all over this country, in Iowa, I dare say, it is getting cold. Older people cannot afford to keep their homes warm. What is the moral justification for giving over $700 billion in tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires and then cut back on programs which keep people warm, which provide health care for desperate people, and which provide many other basic necessities? Give me the moral justification for that.
The tax cuts that the President proposed in 2001 and 2003 are distributed much further than the top 1/10 of 1%.
But I've given you an example of how it impacts the top 3/10 of 1%, $700 billion. Tell me why the richest people in this country need tax breaks when poverty is increasing.
I would guess under that you received a tax cut.
I may have.
You're supposed to go next.
But I'm talking about millionaires and billionaires, and I don't need a tax break. You don't need a tax break. Tell me, why should the richest
Why don't I need a tax break?
Because you're doing well and other people are going hungry in America. And the middle class is shrinking.
And so it's my responsibility.
Eddie, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about millionaires and billionaires.
No, then take anyone as a taxpayer.
I'll give you an example. You want to repeal the estate tax. Is that correct? All of the benefits of the estate tax go to the richest 3/10 of 1%. If the estate tax is completely repealed, the Walton family, which is worth $80 billion, which owns Walmart's, will get over $30 billion in tax relief. Do you think the Walton family needs $30 billion in tax relief when you're cutting back on health care, when you're cutting back on programs that feed hungry people, hungry senior citizens? Let me hear the moral. Your administration talks a lot about morality and family values. Now tell me about the morality of giving tax breaks to the Walton family worth $80 billion and cutting back on the needs of the most desperate people. And throw in there a justification for raising the fees for our veterans who are getting into the VA hospital, significantly increasing them, which will drive veterans off of the VA.
Well, these are the veterans who have incomes that are higher than
$27,000 a year. In other words, I want to hear a simple, Jim, man to man. You tell me about tax breaks for billionaires and cutting back on the needs of veterans and low-income people.
First of all, I don't know what the tax bill is for the Walton family. I don't know how much they pay.
My estimate is they will save $30 billion through the repeal of the estate tax. Tell me why they need a $30 billion.
What do they do with that $30 billion then?
I have no idea, but I will tell you.
But my bet is that they are quite philanthropic, as are many in that situation. Again, I don't have personal knowledge about what they do with it, but they earned it.
I'm glad you're concerned about the Walton family. Some of us are concerned about
No,
families.
you brought up the Walton family. I don't even know them. I've never met them. They don't live.
But you're worried. Your administration is protecting their
I'm not
interests.
worried. I don't think the Waltons would tell you that we ought to be worried about them either.
Good. Probably not.
Senator Gregg.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just as a point of personal privilege,